This week, CyberArk announces more features added to the Endpoint Privilege Manager. Dome 9 brings pay-scale economics cloud security offerings. Dropbox announces a network control capability that will allow you to further control what users can do on the corporate network with their personal Dropbox accounts. Threat Quotient delivers the first intelligence platform for threat operations. We'll talk about that and some of the differences in threat intelligence vendors this week. In our segment for this evening, or for this afternoon rather, open source security in the enterprise. Could you provide enterprise level security using nothing but open source tools? And what would you need to do it? All that and more on this edition of Enterprise Security Weekly. This is a Security Weekly production. Brought to you by IT Pro TV, an easy, entertaining approach to online IT training. IT Pro TV offers 1,000 hours of up-to-date, high-quality video training content. Course topics include certified cloud security professional, ethical hacking, cryptography, and VMware. You can stream their courses live or on demand to your mobile device, all for one low monthly subscription price and cancel at any time. Visit itpro.tv/enterprise security to upgrade your brain with the most popular IT certifications. Use the code ES30 for a free 7-day trial and save 30% off for life. Logarithm's Netmon Freemium delivers real-time network visibility to quickly identify emerging threats in your IT environment. Netmon Freemium is a free, commercial-grade network forensics and traffic analytics solution. You can use Netmon Freemium's powerful capabilities to search against all observed network traffic, identify abnormal traffic patterns and application usage, and quickly analyze full packet captures. Take the first step towards real-time network visibility. Visit logarithm.com/freemium to learn more and download it today. Welcome, everyone, to Enterprise Security Weekly, episode 23. I'm Paul Sidorian, broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island on this day, November 17th, 2016. I am, of course, the El Jefe here at Security Weekly. Like it or not, everyone who works here, and the CEO of Offensive Countermeasures on the lines via Skype is the founder and CEO of Black Hills Information Security and the CTO of Offensive Countermeasures, Mr. John Strand. Welcome, John.
And I, for one, welcome my chain cigar smoking overlord.
Yeah, that's my form of medicine. When you have a cold, I say smoke cigars. It always absolutely makes it better. And drink tea.
Let's be honest. 1 out of about 100 doctors agree, and that guy can't be wrong.
That guy can't be wrong. That guy's awesome. No. That guy's like Bob, right?
Yeah, good guy.
A couple of announcements. IT Pro TV, of course, is always updating their course content. You can find updates in Cyber Patriot Training, Cybersecurity Analyst Plus, and Windows Server 2016. And networking with Server 2016. So, securityweekly.com/survey. Many of you have reached out and filled out the survey. Many of you haven't. I'm speaking to those that haven't done their homework and gone and filled out our survey. Please do your homework. We want to hear from you. We've got lots of awesome feedback in there, and it's great because we, based on the feedback we've gotten already, are already shaping some new potential shows and content based on the feedback from the audience. So if you want to be a part of that and we want us to do content that you actually want to hear about and see in our videos and all that stuff, go fill out the survey. Also, anything that you'd like to see changed on our entire network and all of our shows, we're collecting a lot of great feedback there. So, please let us know. If there's audio quality issues, if there's issues with the feed, we want to hear about them because we want to make it right. securityweekly.com/survey. I like that. That's a slogan for the survey. We want to make it right. Is that anyone else's survey? No?
No, I don't think it is. That's brand new. No one would ever do that.
No one would ever say that. Up in the enterprise, security news for. Oh, John, did you have an announcement? Do we want to talk about Wild West Hackin' Fest? Because that's coming up next year.
Yes, Wild West Hackin' Fest. The first annual is coming up October 26th and 27th in Deadwood, South Dakota. We've got my new chain cigar smoking overlord is going to be there along with Larry. Dave Kennedy will have Secure Ideas or Kevin Johnson. Digi Ninja will have Nickerson. We'll have Chris Gates. Basically, anybody who is like absolutely a rock star in the industry is going to be there. So you should start looking into that right now. We have a call for papers open right now, call for training open right now, and we'll be doing ticket sales here shortly.
Sweet. I can't wait. It's not till next year, though.
No, it's not until next year. Yeah, it's October 26th and 27th next year. So plenty of time for people to get ready and buy their tickets.
It's awesome. I'll be giving my talk, everything I need to know about security I learned from watching Kung Fu movies, which I just gave earlier today. At a small local ISSA meeting, which was fun. And I should have that song playing in the background when I give the talk because it's pretty funny. So this talk will be very much reserved for select conferences, InfoSec World in the spring. I'll be giving it, and that may be it. I may only really give it 3 times for now.
Well, and it's going to change too. I mean, without question. I still am waiting for the presentation. God damn it, I was right, from Paul Asadorian about an Internet of Things hacking.
I'm toying with an Internet of Things, and it's interesting, John. I'm toying with a presentation about our topic today, open source in the enterprise. I don't know if there's something there. I think that could be...
That's going to be an interesting topic today, the open source in the enterprise. So
let's talk about CyberArk first. CyberArk's endpoint privilege manager helps organizations detect and block credential theft attempts by malicious users and applications, including Windows credentials, remote access application credentials, and those credentials stored by popular web browsers. CyberArk is able to block hash harvesting at the endpoint to prevent pass the hash and attacks leveraging stolen credentials. I think this is great that CyberArk has this stuff, but like, can't you just configure Windows in your applications not to leak this stuff?
There's actually, I think that there's a couple of interesting things here. First and foremost, if you work in a marketing department, go look at what CyberArk did today. CyberArk releases new capabilities for trying to stop privileged access of accounts and pivoting around an environment. And at the exact same time, they basically dropped a 0-day on how they can get domain credentials from a system. So basically, from a marketing perspective, it's like, look, we have the technical capabilities to do this. And oh, by the way, here's another thing highlighting why it's so important for people to have this capability in their organization. Out of all the stories that you have this week, Paul, this one is probably the best out of all of the marketing stories that basically shows this is how it's done.
Well, and they did alert us here at Security Weekly that they were dropping some new information, some new 0 days essentially from their labs, and I will air more information about that on Security Weekly tonight. And I think you're right, John. I'm proud of you for recognizing marketing like this. This is great. This is refreshing. This
is the way it should be.
John's like,
because the rest of this show is going to turn into an absolute bloodbath with most of the other vendors.
We have requests for more like blood bathing on this show.
Oh my God. We got some good ones today. So the other thing about this credential theft, so if you talk to the people at Verus Group, you got Harmjoy and all the people behind Bloodhound, PowerShell Empire, fantastic pen testing company, competitor of ours, but we have much respect for them. They come right out and they say, look, CyberArk is a good, solid product, and BHIS can basically follow that up too. Whenever you're trying to pivot around and get credentials, privileged credentials in an organization, CyberArk makes that very difficult to do. And this is just further proof that they're basically at the pinnacle of their game. And I don't know of anybody that's competing with them that can actually keep up. They're just a great company right now.
No, I agree. We've covered CyberArk quite a bit this year. And I've interviewed their CyberArk Labs folks as well, because they just had something so compelling that I'm like, no, this is free for the community. Like, you just need to come on the show and talk about this because people need to know about it. It's my greater good clause. So usually companies that are hitting that greater good clause, like, hey, we want to come on the show, believe me, we get lots of emails every day of people saying, we want to come on the show. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. And we weed through all of that for you, the listener, to make sure that you get the top quality content. We do have a clause, like the greater good clause. Like even if you're a vendor and you've done something that's spectacular, that has a free component, whether you're giving away research, you can come on the show and talk about it.
And we're still waiting on Safe Breach.
They can't. I think we have been in communications with them. We have been. We responded back to them. I don't know where we're at with it.
Like us. We miss you. So anyway, so no.
They were in the news this week, but it's not news that we would cover. Just reviewing the news. There's a lot of things in there that are like personnel changes or. Like we won this award. There's a lot of organizations out there in computer security. When they win any kind of industry award or want to announce earnings for a quarter, they will put out a press release. And I wish I could like programmatically write something in Python that would just scrape all of those out. I may try because there's a lot of them.
Because we don't care. Unless it's the RSA Podcaster of the Year Awards. Then we do care about. That one matters. That one matters.
Although we've won it so much that I think people are kind of tired of seeing us win.
I still think we should just give up and just tell them, hey, Security Weekly, we're going to officially call it the Security Weekly Podcast Award, and put a name.
That's what you do. You just give out your own award at some point, right?
That's what we should do. We should do that this year. Like at RSA, we'll come up with our own stupid awards. No, see who we can piss off next. But no, this one is good. And also, I want to get your opinion on this. So Microsoft looked at the vulnerability that they released, and they said, well, you have to be a local administrator. Therefore, it's not really a vulnerability that we're worried about. And we tie that with the OA portal bypass technique that Bo Bullock came up with from BHIS. Microsoft came and said, well, that's not really a vulnerability that we're going to try to fix. What the hell is going on at Microsoft? They're looking at things like this, and they're looking at things like what we released, and basically saying,
you know what
doesn't
happened?
matter.
I can tell you what happened at Microsoft in that regard. Katie Mazuris left.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
End of story. All right, so moving on to Dome 9.
Dome 9. It's interesting. They're a leader in cloud infrastructure security, and I started looking up. I don't know if you did too, John, what Dome 9 actually does, which is kind of interesting. That they are the cloud, one of the new cloud like security kind of vendors, right? Cloud network security, they call it. Essentially, they allow you to do things such as from their website, right? This is a great one. Visualize your AWS environment and security status and remediate potential security threats. Like these are all things, there's lots of vendors doing this, not in the cloud or in AWS, but Dome 9 happens to be doing it in the cloud. And I'm not sure if their solution actually works, or they're certainly good at stating the buzzwords like enforced security policies. That's certainly a thing. That we should do, and it's important.
File integrity monitoring is important as well.
That's right. The devil's in the details, though. But they are basically offering a SaaS subscription on AWS Marketplace, which and I don't know how much you read into this article, John, but it sounds to me like basically you buy their software and you're responsible for like any charges that happen in the cloud. Is that?
Yeah, that's it. Right? And this is kind of where we're going to be going with TrackBack and AI Hunt. So that's where we're going to be heading here shortly with our startup offensive countermeasures. And that's probably the biggest story about this, right? Is it's showing the ease of integration and products into your AWS infrastructure. You basically go to the marketplace, you click a button, you put in your credit card information, and bam, it's now going to load. It's basically as easy as buying an app from the App Store. And that's something we're going to continue to see. Now, as far as the product itself, they're in the same space as Cloud Passage. And right. I do know that we're talking about Cloud Passage. We really, really like Cloud Passage. We have a lot of experience with Cloud Passage. We know what they have. We know their security is very, very tight insofar as a company. But it looks like right now Dome 9 may have more features than Cloud Passage. So if you're on the Cloud Passage marketing team, you might want to look at what Dome 9 is saying. And you guys may do some of these things, but I don't know necessarily if you go so far as like file integrity monitoring and things like that, but no, the big story on this is basically looking at their model for giving it or selling it to customers. And Paul, you and I have been talking about this a while. The age of getting salespeople like you and me, getting on the phone with a customer, demonstrating the product, putting out a proposal, dancing back and forth. I think that we both realize that that's going to be coming to a dead end here very shortly. People just want to be able to buy a product, implement that product, and make it work in their cloud infrastructure as seamlessly and as easily as possible. And that's where Dome 9's at. And I think, honestly, I'd like to watch this for a while because I think that that's a great marketing approach and that's a great sales approach.
Yeah, and I think your marketing approach has to change with this too, right? Like you have to be...
Yeah.
You have to get to a point where, like, yeah, someone can just buy it because they know that that's the solution for them. And that can be a difficult thing to achieve marketing-wise if you're not out in the field, having those sales calls and educating people on the problems that your product is solving. So I think, the industry's in for a shake-up and kind of a migration into this new model, which I think is interesting. And there's a lot of people that are going to be in the market for solutions like this, for Dome 9 and Cloud Passage. I think it's certainly an emerging technology and something that we need. And it'll be interesting to watch.
I will call Dome 9 to task a little bit. If you look at their try for free options, it's basically full featured 14-day trial. There's no way anybody can integrate something like this in 14 days and make a purchasing decision within that time frame. It's just not going to work. And this is one of those areas where Cloud Passage is outshining them. Cloud Passage, I think it's free for 5 systems as long as you want to use them. And that seems to be a better marketing strategy approach than giving people very, very tight-knit 2-week demo accounts to actually try this stuff out. So that'd be one thing if you're the marketing team at Dome 9. Look at what Cloud Passage is doing. Set up a pack where it's like 5 systems and you can basically run it for free. And I think that would be a better sales approach.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. You see a lot of vendors offer different options like that. So Dropbox has announced, what did they? So a network control capability to secure enterprise collaboration. In reading the article, it sounds like they've made it easier for you to differentiate between legitimate Dropbox traffic on your corporate network that's controlled by IT and somewhat what we'd call illegitimate access to someone's personal Dropbox that's exfiltrating files out. So I think that's a good move by Dropbox. It sounds like they really want to make inroads into corporate America and maybe corporations across the world. However, what I come down to with Dropbox, John, in both terms of security and usability, is if you're using Google's now called G Suite, which is a terrible name, but if you're using Google's G Suite, why wouldn't you just use Google Drive now? And that can then be integrated with your Google G Suite master profile for your organization, where you can control things like two-factor authentication. You can control where documents can go. So I can't share my documents out with anyone else. Sure, I could download a document from my G Drive or Google Drive, and I could upload it to Dropbox if I can't gain remote access. However, one of the advantages to G Suite is wherever I go, I can log in with my credentials, I can do the two-factor authentication and get access to my documents. And that's me personally. Now, if I want to share those out, that may be where I have a Dropbox set up so I can publicly share documents, and then I'm pulling them down from my G Drive and copying them back up. So this is something you're still going to need to look at. However, my recommendation, dude, for most people is really like G Suite and Google is the way to go with this file sharing stuff. I don't know how you feel, but...
And what they're kind of hitting right now is if you look at like Google Drive and you look at the management of Google Drive and actually setting it up, it's an absolute nightmare trying to just run it. And I think that Sky High, that's part of their overall approach, right? They're trying to make it easier to try and secure and lock down access to those different resources that are in the cloud. But, and I think that this is kind of showing us a larger path, and it's a larger question in information security as a whole. One of the cool things about things like Sky High is the ability to actually integrate it with, Active Directory. You can basically use your data loss prevention policies and hook right into Active Directory and set up blocks and rules. And I think that that's the market, right, Paul? You have the companies out there that have their Active Directory forest. and they want to start using cloud, but they have Active Directory group policies, and how do we actually, connect those two different things? And I think that's where Sky High Network is, basically taking those group policies, being able to push those onto things like Dropbox is a tremendous value in the marketplace. But it gets into, like I said, a bigger trend. Are we starting to see the end of Active Directory? I mean, we have a couple of things today on this show where we're talking about integration and identity and access management in the cloud. We've got a couple of show notes talking about that. And right now, if I was starting up a company, and a lot of startup companies are starting up this way, they aren't starting by building an Active Directory forest. What they're actually doing is they're putting everything into the cloud. They're putting everything into AWS. They're using Dropbox. They're using Azure, and there's very little kind for authentication and authorization in their startup companies, and I think that's where Sky High comes in. So it's almost like moving forward in the future, a lot of these startup companies may not even have an Active Directory structure that has to be integrated. They just need to be able to centralize their identity and access management, single sign-on, and things like that in the cloud itself. So the question is Active Directory dead? Or is it just something that's going to be integrated into the overall cloud infrastructure and become less and less relevant over time?
I think that's interesting. It's still too soon to call it dead, right? But I think as new companies are created, they're not rushing to a Microsoft Active Directory infrastructure. As they grow, they are going to go into probably two different routes that I see now. They're either going to go all G Suite, or they're going to have some kind of Active Directory and maybe Office 365. However, for controlling access locally, you kind of wonder, like, as these newer companies get bigger now, are they going to use Active Directory, or are they going to migrate to something else? Like, what is, at the end of the day, what does Active Directory do for you? I mean, it really lets you control the configuration and authentication and authorization of everyone internally. If most of your stuff is in the cloud, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It very well could be the case that we're still going to have Active Directory and Windows computers until the end of time. However, Google's doing some interesting things with the Chrome OS and putting all your stuff out in the cloud. I can see people not wanting to go with Apple products based on the recent announcement, which is just a friggin' train wreck. And then you're introducing basically another whole operating system that's not really as cloud enabled, because iCloud is basically a train wreck and not meant for enterprises. Yep. So, excuse me, I think it'll be interesting.
So it basically boils down to one simple question. Is there a compelling reason for new organizations to implement Active Directory? And I don't think there is. I do agree with you. I think we're going to see Active Directory till the end of time, but moving forward now, I would honestly do something completely different. Like you said, G Suite or using Sky High to integrate. I think that's where most people.
And I think Google's gonna make an impact in a big way on that, dude. And I'm seeing it with Chrome today. As I have alluded to in our listeners, I bought a Linux laptop from System 76, and the limited time I've had to set it up recently, there was an issue. They were nice and corrected the issue. Not everyone's perfect. They made up for it. They're a great company to deal with. But the gist of it is I don't have a power brick right now. It's fine. They're fixing it. But on the battery life that I had when I got the laptop, when I was configuring it.
You were going to tell me that. Yeah. What did you get on it?
I realized how reliant on Chrome that I am and I can be, and be okay with it, right? Like Signal is on there. I use Google Keep for a lot of stuff. It automatically syncs all my bookmarks. Google Hangouts to chat with people. And there was another one. Was it Slack? No, Slack is a different application. There was another application that TweetDeck. Like sort of monitor Twitter and everything. Like TweetDeck is just an add-on for Chrome. So I'm realizing that a lot of the applications that I have can either be Chrome itself or an add-on to Chrome, and the operating system is less and less of an issue because all of my stuff is essentially now in the cloud. So I think me personally is not a great example, or even small companies like, even John and myself have smaller companies. When you scale that out to tens of thousands of people, it's a different story. But I think we're going to see this progression to really where the desktop is much more tightly integrated with cloud, and maybe the operating system doesn't even matter that much anymore.
Well, and that's interesting. I had never thought of the operating system not mattering much anymore, but yeah, I think that's kind of an interesting approach. And and we always talk about it as the news story, right? If we get hacked and we have two-factor authentication, Google Drive, Google everything, the news story isn't necessarily that we got hacked. The news story is that Google got hacked. There was a cross-site request forgery vulnerability for adding in an app password or something like that. And I think that that's important to you and me, because if we get hacked through Google, like their ecosystem, then that's a much larger story than just you or I getting compromised.
Let's talk threat intelligence, John. You were really digging into this threat quotient article where they're releasing some new features.
Okay. So I guess it's going to be an open call out to the people at Threat Quotient. All right. So, and just full disclosure, Threat Connect is a vendor that we're very close to. And one of the things that's neat about Threat Connect, and the only reason why I spend any time with them, with the webcast and things like that, is the way that their model is. Basically, you can ingest threat intelligence feeds and you can integrate it with existing security data within your organization and cross-reference and correlate those two. And that's basically bringing threat intelligence feeds and making it implementable in such a way that there's value there. Now, if we're looking at Threat Quotient, right, and they're talking about how they take a whole bunch of different feeds, they aggregate those feeds down, and then they feed it out and provide context and threat intelligence feeds. I don't see the compelling reason for this. This looks like one of the quintessential threat intelligence feeds vendors that are out there that I rile against. Now, I could be wrong, and this is something, talking with Paul and the producers before the show started, if you're working at Threat Quotient and you do actually integrate with existing infrastructure, and I'm not just talking about SIEMs. I can go to your website and I can see, if I click on SIEM and log, that you guys integrate with log data, but I don't actually know what the hell that actually means. Then it kind of breaks away that compelling story of actually tying together your existing infrastructure with your threat intelligence feeds. And that would be something I would like to see from this particular vendor. If they're doing that, they need to actually highlight that on their website, so it's not just a standard threat intelligence feed.
Yeah, and I apologize. Sorry, John. I apologize to our listeners and to Threat Quotient. I did spend a little bit of time with Threat Quotient trying to understand what they did. It was only like a 15 or 20 minute type thing. And I want to say that it sounds like it kind of works in reverse, although I could be wrong, is that they provide like outbound feeds into your existing solutions. They don't necessarily take in information, but they send information out that you can integrate with your different solutions. So it almost sounds like the opposite of Threat Connect, although I'm still...
Once again, that shouldn't be anything having sit down with them for like 15 minutes and going to their website that we should be even remotely fuzzy on, right?
Well, and I think that's the case for every security vendor in existence now. I'm really confused all the time, John. I really am. And I'm really mapping out a strategy for next year on how I can better get a handle on what all the security vendors do. What do I need to do? Do I need to set up briefing calls? Do we need to spend more time with them at conferences? Maybe all of the above, maybe both A and B. Is certainly my goal for 2017, because reading about these things is extremely difficult, and you often don't get anywhere. And my fear is that people have a perception about the company that's not right, or even worse for the company is that they solve a problem, but no one knows that they solve that problem, and they may solve it really, really well. And that's the kind of thing that I want to bring out on our shows to educate the security community about what's working or even what's not working, right? And where vendors can improve, and give that feedback back to the vendor community, I think is extremely helpful, as we've already done in the show, John. So,
and that's one of the reasons why the show spun off, right? If we talk about vendors, what vendors work, which vendors don't, on the regular Security Weekly, we get destroyed. This show doesn't try to hide that we're going to talk about vendors. We're going to talk about.
We're not afraid to name names.
We're not afraid to name names. Now, we ruffle a lot of feathers, and people get frustrated with us, and that's okay. I think that you and I can take that. But one of the things I think is difficult for you and me is we do have these vendors that are like, well, we want to talk about our product because you didn't give us a fair shake. Okay, we sit down and we talk with them, and a lot of times we get marketing salespeople who start talking to you and me, and they're like, well, we're best of breed. It's like, whoa, stop right there. It doesn't mean a damn thing to you or me. And really, if this is kind of going out for a vendor, and I'll put Threat Quotient in this as well, if we're missing something, and we're trying to be a little bit nicer rather than saying, this product looks like crap because we said that, and I can bite us a little bit. It's just mean. Then bring somebody who's technical who can actually answer questions. How the API actually works. What's the formats that you ingest? What does it actually kick out? Don't give us a marketing wonk. That's not going to work very well for us. And we tend to get angry. And you won't like us when we're angry.
John turns into the Hulk on this show, and even though he's being nice on this episode, John will turn into the Hulk and smash vendors.
Yeah, well, I still remember the day with FireEye before FireEye was huge. And,
that was the start. Did we ever think we'd have a whole show based on our experiences with?
And you know what? We should have done it back then. Hey, that's something that's pretty good.
We should have seen it back then. That's just our own fault.
Yeah,
anyway.
Should have seen it.
What other? We had another story. Oh, there's a. This is
authentication based.
Bidium application services endpoint. This is an authentication and authorization vendor that's essentially offering its services through AWS in the marketplace, and announced that at AWS reInvent.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to Hulk smash these people, right?
I don't think so. I mean, this goes back to kind of the core question of today: is Active Directory moving on? And if Active Directory is moving on, there has to be something for identity and access management. And these vendors, Ping Identity, Bidium, Bitium, I think it's Bidium, application services endpoint. Yeah, these guys are going to have to step into that field, and I think it's going to take a while for it to break down for us to figure out exactly where the massive leaders are. I still think it's wide open. So somebody like Bidium could totally come in and crush the marketplace, and Ping could, and other companies that we've talked about could absolutely do that. But no, this is one that we're going to be watching for a while. I don't think that we have a very clear leader in this space right now at all.
I want to do this. I want to take a short break. And I want to come back. And John and I are going to talk about, what if you had to defend your enterprise using nothing but open source software? What would you do? Can it work? Coming up next.